Hello and welcome to another episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, and I'm about to take you on a little musical journey called Guitar Walk at Cavenaugh Park. And it talks about all the legends that played here, or actually not just here, but all along Highway 67 in northeast Arkansas. So it is said that Highway 61, US Highway 61 that is the highway of the blues. Highway 40 could be the Main Street of America or Route 66. Well, there's no official title given to any highway as the Rock and Roll Highway, but that all changed until 2009 when Arkansas lawmakers put together a bill and Highway 67, the northeast portion of it that is, was designated as a Rock and Roll Highway. I'll come show you all about it. Here we go. And this is the Guitar Walk at Cavenaugh Park. The story of Rock and Roll Highway 67. This is more fun than any bill I've ever signed. Arkansas Governor Mike Beebe. Okay. Alright, so Rock and Roll Highway 67 is an officially designated route through northeast Arkansas, established by Act 497 of 2009 by the state legislature. The designation celebrates a rich but often overlooked musical legacy. Highway 67 was once the route of choice for traveling musicians who performed at venues along the road. Their music was new and it was called rock and roll. This particular breed of early rock singers was known as rockabilly. Most, though not all, were recording artists at Sun Records in Memphis, and their sound captured the imagination of a new generation of fans. Representative J.R. Rogers of Walnut Ridge was the lead sponsor for the act, which established Rock and Roll Highway 67. He was joined by other sponsors from around the region, and the act passed with near unanimous support. Since its designation, communities along the historic route have begun to commemorate their musical heritage, and we are delighted you have chosen to join us at Guitar Walk at Cavenaugh Park to celebrate a great history. This is Mike Beebe signing the bill, and then that is him playing the guitar. How about that? And that is Billy Lee Riley, who I've done in a different episode. And that is J.R. Rogers, the guy that led the whole bill signing. So now I'm going to go ahead and see all these historical markers. I guess I'll start from the left here. And yes, in case you haven't figured it out, yes, it is shaped like a guitar. This one talks about the Epiphone. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick that one, or skip it. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. And yeah, I mean, it tells us a lot that he personified rock and roll. He was a regular performer at the venues along Rock and Roll Highway 67 in the mid-1950s. The King of Clubs near Swifton in Jackson County was the last club still operating from Elvis's first tour until a fire in 2010 destroyed the historic site and its rockabilly memorabilia. Darn. But he was a fan favorite in northeast Arkansas. And most of us know he was discovered by Sun Records owner Sam Phillips in Memphis. He broke right through with That's All Right Mama and went on to record such rock classics such as Heartbreak Hotel, Jailhouse Rock, Hound Dog. He was a perfect vehicle for an expressive style of music created by American teenagers of the time. I'm just going to kind of skip on through. 19-year-old Elvis poses with a state trooper at an Arkansas truck stop. And that is Scotty Moore next to him, and Bill Black, the second from right, that's him. Wanda Jackson. Now, she is still alive at the time I'm doing this video, and I mean, she's had a great life, and she was known as, at one time, the female Elvis, but she's had a great career. I think she still tours, despite the events that happened 2 years ago, well, the last 2 years. But she has done an album with Jack White, and so she was another sensation in rockabilly music. In a music industry dominated at the time by male performers, Wanda stormed onto the scene while still a teenager. And she was from Oklahoma, and I almost drove past her house when I was in Oklahoma City a year and a half ago. But she had her own radio show on KLPR AM while in high school. Country star Hank Thompson heard Wanda performing on the show and invited her to perform with his band, the Brazos Valley Boys. Her first chart single was You Can't Have My Love in 1954. and in subsequent years she would record such songs as I Gotta Know and Let's Have a Party. She recorded several gospel albums after becoming a Christian in the 1970s, and Wanda has remained popular into the 21st century, including the album The Party Ain't Over. That was the one I mentioned that was produced by Jack White in 2011. The album climbed to number 58 on the Billboard charts, making Wanda Jackson at age 73 the oldest artist ever to hit the album charts. Okay, I don't know how true that statistic is because Frank Sinatra was in his 80s and he was still charting albums. Tony Bennett too, but I'm not going to go there. And by the way, I have met Wanda. I'll put a picture on the screen right now. And then the sidebar says, Wanda Jackson has enjoyed a career resurgence in the 21st century. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2009. And that was in the early influence category, by the way. It doesn't say, but she has continued to perform before sellout crowds all over the world. Yep, I saw her at the Blueberry Hill Duck Room in 2010. Roy Orbison, he's another guy. He, like many others, started at the Sun Records studio. And I apologize, I'm going to kind of skip through a lot of these. Jerry Lee Lewis, the Killer. Now, it is worth noting that he was one of the inaugural inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1986, and he's the only one that is still alive today. But he's had, he's had a great career, but yes, not without its setbacks. I mean, yeah. Jerry Lee's marriage to his young cousin Myra caused his career to stall for several years. And then he had personal problems such as alcoholism, and I think he even spray painted some stuff on the graffiti fence. But Great Balls of Fire is a great movie if you ever want to check out what Jerry Lee Lewis was like. Carl Perkins, he delivered what many considered the first big hit of rock and roll music, Blue Suede Shoes, in 1956. It was the first million-selling single for Sun Records. I'm just going to kind of helicopter over this. Johnny Cash. Oh, yes. And yes, he is from Northeast Arkansas at Dice, Arkansas. And I did an episode on his boyhood home. But he was more country rock, I guess. Yeah, it says here his music was more country than rock. But he produced an innovative sound that enthralled fans for over 5 decades. And it talks about his shows along Highway 67. And then after leaving Sun in 1958, he had hits like Ring of Fire, Sunday Morning Coming Down. He also scored a huge hit with June Carter, the Jackson song. And then he enjoyed a popular resurgence late in life with a series of albums called American Recordings. And those were, of course, produced by Rick Rubin. It doesn't say on here, but ending his career where it started, on an independent label. Songs such as Delia's Gone, Hurt, which of course is a 9 Inch Nails cover, and God's Gonna Cut You Down introduced Johnny Cash to a whole new generation of fans. And then after his death, there's the movie Walk the Line. Highly recommended if you have not seen it. Billy Lee Riley. Now, I did a separate episode on him where I visited a historical marker in his hometown, Pocahontas, as well as his gravesite. But born along rock and roll Highway 67 in Pocahontas, Billy Lee Riley was known for fronting one of the hottest rock bands on the touring circuit. His 4 years at Sun Records resulted in a number of singles that influenced rock musicians for decades afterward. Like other rockabilly artists, Billy was influenced by the African-American music of the Delta. He was the son of a Northeast Arkansas sharecropper, and Billy credited black farm workers with teaching him to play the guitar and giving him an appreciation for the blues. I'm just going to kind of helicopter over some of this text if you want to stop and pause it. Conway Twitty. Now, he had a lot of country hits, but his career started out pop when he hit #1 with It's Only Make Believe. With an astounding 55 #1 hits to his credit, Conway Twitty was a legendary performer. But while he is remembered best as a country superstar, he started his career and scored his first big hit as a rockabilly singer. He had a special bond with Rock and Roll Highway 67, going back to the days when he was performed by his given name of Harold Jenkins. And some other trivia, like he was an excellent baseball player as well, and signed with the Philadelphia Phillies, but his dreams of playing on the diamond ended when he was drafted into the Army. And he, of course, changed his name because, yeah, Harold Jenkins didn't really sound really flashy, so Conway, Arkansas, Twitty, Texas. And like I said, his first #1 record was on MGM, It's Only Make Believe. And then he moved to country music in the 1960s and began a string of hits that spanned decades, including Hello Darlin', Linda on My Mind, Don't Call Him a Cowboy. He also teamed up with the late great Loretta Lynn on memorable duets like After the Fire Is Gone and Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man, and that is Loretta Lynn. She recently passed away. In fact, it was last week at the time I'm doing this video that she did, but she lived a very long life. But unfortunately, Conway Twitty's life was cut short in 1993. He was complaining of stomach pains while signing autographs, but he was still doing such thing. Then he woke up the next day and he was in extreme pain and he never recovered from it. And lastly, Sonny Burgess. Where he was from Newport. And it was there that he first made his name as an outstanding musical entertainer. He grew up listening to and playing the country music he heard on the Grand Ole Opry, but his taste and talent always led him toward rhythm and blues. And then he developed a rockabilly style of his own. With his band called the Moonlighters, he named for the Silver Moon nightclub in Newport, where he and a host of other popular musicians performed regularly. And I'm going to kind of hover over these in case you want to stop and look at them. Alright, so that about concludes the guitar walk. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned a little bit of rock and roll and blues and rockabilly history. Alright, I am Jason in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas. Sign off.